Hi, this is Dr. Sadasivam once again with you. And in today's video, we are going to talk about some important covered awareness events during the fourth week of April. We will be talking about the following subject: US to help India on weapons. Bojo, that is Boris Johnson, signals acceptance of India's stand on Russia. We will be talking about Indonesia's palm oil exports ban. Very important question. We are going to discuss FTA, which is free trade agreement with United Kingdom to double India's trade with them. Now, we will also be talking about 20% cut in API. That's a pharmacy related word, and we will talk about that. And of course, little bit about monetary policy and why that needs to be nuanced. Now, US will be helping India on weapons. Now, US, we are all aware that they have already warned China of sanctions. But at the same time, US has assured India to supply weapons to end its dependence on Russian weapons. And who said that? The US Deputy Secretary of State, which is Wendy Sherman. Very, very important. Now, sanctions have pulled back the military industrial complex of Russia. It has affected their military supplies to a very great extent, and that is why US is offering help to India, especially in terms of supplying arms and ammunition. But China is very clearly said that they will continue to strengthen their strategic ties with Russia. Now, India's stand on Russia is very well known. And we're not going to change that stance. This is very clearly demonstrated by Boris Johnson. Now, Boris Johnson, during his trip to India, he clearly said that India is an incredible country with 1.3 billion people and one of the biggest democracies in the world. And the Prime Minister also said that nobody can preach to the world's biggest democracy, that is India. Boris Johnson is a great guy. He came and talked very high of India, and he even called Narendra Modi ji as his caste dost. He also talked about Amitabh Bachchan and so many. He's a very jovial guy, excellent sense of humor, right? Now, UK is also announcing its open general license to expedite defense procurement by India and then support new fighter jet technology. Now, we are talking about Indonesia's palm oil ban. That's the next one. Very important, guys. We talked a lot about inflation, CPI, WPI. All that plays a very important role. The domestic edible oil prices are expected to come under intense pressure. Now, if you look at sunflower oil, they were all hit because of the war in Ukraine, because Ukraine is the major producer of sunflower oil in the whole world. Now, if the palm oil supply is also disrupted, then one can imagine to what extent the prices will skyrocket, right? Now, the government is initiating talks with the Indonesian government to resolve this crisis, because the monthly consumption of edible oil in India is more than 18 lakh tons. Not a joke. And out of 18 lakh, 7 lakhs come from Indonesia, right? And of course, the rest comes from Choda Moda countries like Malaysia. We import a lot of oil from Malaysia, Thailand, even Papua New Guinea, right? Now, we talked about free trade agreements, very, very important, from IAS, IPS exams. During the Boris Johnson's visit to India, he's expressed keenness for trade agreement with India. Now, teams from both the countries are working on FTA. FTA means free trade agreements, and hopefully people are thinking, and it's everybody's hope, that the FTAs will be finalized by the year end. Now, if you go back and turn the records, India had finalized a trade pact with United Arab Emirates in less than 90 days. It took only 6 months and for India and Australia to see a deal. You know this past story, because way back in 2011, talks were on between India and Australia for 4 long years continuously. Nothing happened. Every time group of officers will fly from here to Australia, have some meetings, make minutes, leave some points unresolved, and then other team visiting from Australia to here and once again here, and once again they will go back. Nothing happened, guys, for 4 long years. After that, in 2014, India withdrew from the RCEP and the whole issue was put under the cold burner. Now, this has been revived and we have finalized the trade pact with Australia in a very short period of time, guys. Now, when you talk about the discussions with UK, lot of talks in terms of lifting of barriers on machinery, apples, like UK can lift barriers on rice and textiles. I think 4 of the 16 chapters have already been finalized, and UK will start exporting medical devices to India. Certain topics like mutual recognition of higher educational qualifications, all that is happening, and with all that, it is hoped that the trade between India and UK will double in the next 4 or 5 years, and that is expected to create thousands and thousands of new jobs in both the countries, guys. And today, from a statistical standpoint, if you say UK is India's 17th largest trading partner, and the bilateral trade is estimated at around $16 billion. Okay, G, okay. Then we are also talking about dependence on pharmacy. Very, very important. We are talking about 25% cut in API. API means it is a pharmaceutical word. Now, India's dependence for raw materials to produce essential medicines, it is likely to reduce by 25% by 2025. As of now, if you want to know the story, most Indian drug manufacturers are dependent on China. For what? For imports of around 53 active API, active pharmaceutical ingredients. These APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, are the main component of any medicine, whether it is TB, whether it is cancer, steroid, vitamins, everywhere you need APIs, and for that you need API. And for that, India depends too much on China, completely dependent, at least 53 APIs, right? Now, if you look at China, China caters to nearly 90% of the local demand, because they have a cost advantage that nobody in the world will be able to compete, and that is dangerous for India's drug security. We talk of energy security, we talk of food security. There's another security called as drug security. Those APIs have been identified and PLI schemes have been rolled out. That is production linked incentives that we are talking about. So once those incentives are done, our local producers will become globally competitive. And of course, we need to focus on other aspects like your international partnerships, your global supply chains, your digital expertise, implementation, and host of other things. All that will continue. And the next, we are going to talk about monetary policy, very important from IAS, IPS point of view. Now, MPC. What is MPC? We have already talked about it. It's Monetary Policy Committee. Both consumptions and investments are subdued for quite some time in the last few months. Now, the inflation targets have undergone significant upward trends since the start of the war in February. The increase in prices of crude, its direct and indirect effects on CPI, all that contributed to 16% of the upward revision, and therefore a very close watch on the inflation trend is extremely necessary. Now, many feel that it's high time to withdraw crisis time accommodation. Remember what is crisis time accommodation? Remember, I explained that in a different video. Crisis time accommodation is government putting money in the hands of people. Now, the government is not much bothered that its fiscal deficits are going up. The fiscal deficit used to be 3% of the GDP. Now it's 6%. But the government is not bothered, because what is important is during crisis time, money needs to be put in the hands of people so that consumption happens. People's welfare is what is more important, guys. And that is what they had this in mind. And that is what is called as crisis time management. That is reduction of interest rates in terms of moving towards equilibrium, because growth and inflation, these are some of the levers that the government has in hand in order to control inflation. Because if you control inflation too much, growth suffers, and if you want growth, then inflation. Therefore, it's an acrobatic walk that the RBI needs to do. It's a judicious mix and balance that is required. Okay guys, that's all for now. This is Dr. Sadasivam signing off once again. Till we meet again. Bye bye. Jai Hind.